I am writing this not to impress you with my fitness or my routines. I am writing this because I am running out of patience for the lies we tell ourselves. I am 45 years old, and looking back at my 30s, I see a man who was gambling with the only vessel he will ever own. If you are in your 30s right now, I implore you to stop scrolling and listen, because the clock is ticking louder than you think. For the first 3 decades of my life, I lived under a dangerous delusion. I believed that health was a guaranteed baseline, a renewable resource that I could abuse without consequence. In your 20s, you are forgiven for this arrogance. You can survive on minimal sleep, poor fuel, and neglect, and your body bounces back like rubber. But I am here to confess a hard truth that took me years to accept. The moment you cross the threshold of 30, the rules change violently. When I turned 40, I saw the world divide into 2 distinct camps: those who respected the vessel and those who let it rot. This is not about vanity, it is about functionality. I learned the hard way that after age 30, you begin to lose 3 to 8% of your muscle mass every single decade. It is a silent theft. You don't feel it happening day by day, but suddenly, you wake up one morning, and the tasks that were once easy feel like burdens. I used to look at lifting weights as a chore or a vanity project. How wrong I was. I now realize that lifting weights is not about looking good in a mirror. It is an act of survival. It is an investment in your future self so that you do not become a prisoner in your own body. I have seen the alternative, and it terrifies me. Lifting weights after 60, 70, or 80 is the only thing standing between you and the nursing home. I would rather struggle as the oldest person in the weight room than wither away as the youngest person in a care facility. Do not wait until the decay sets in to start reinforcing the walls. I spent years treating my body like a trash can, assuming that what I ate didn't affect who I was. I was living on autopilot, consuming whatever was convenient. But here is the reckoning. You are exactly what you eat. If you feel like garbage, if your energy is low, your mood is dark, and your mind is foggy, look no further than the fuel you are pouring into your tank. It is a tragedy that we prioritize the fuel we put in our cars more than the food we put in our bodies. Science has shown us repeatedly that the nutrients you absorb dictate your mental health. I wasted so much time feeling lethargic and depressed, not realizing I was chemically engineering my own misery through my diet. And it is not just what you eat, it is when you eat. I used to eat late into the night, disrupting the natural rhythm of my biology. I ignored the concept of circadian nutrition, a simple truth that connects us to the cycle of the sun. By simply stopping my intake 3 to 5 hours before bed and waiting an hour after waking to eat, I could have aligned my body with nature. Instead, I fought against it, and I paid the price in energy and vitality. If I could shake my 30-year-old self awake, I would scream one word at him: sleep. We live in a culture that wears sleep deprivation like a badge of honor. I fell for this lie, thinking that sleeping less meant I was working harder. The truth is, sleep is the single most powerful performance-enhancing drug on the planet, and it is free. Yet, we trade it for cheap entertainment and late-night scrolling. At a bare minimum, you need 7 to 9 hours. This is not negotiable. When you compromise your sleep, you are not hacking your productivity. You are borrowing happiness from tomorrow to pay for a miserable today. Fix your environment. Make your sleep evergreen. I won't sugarcoat this. Most people refuse to admit that their chaotic lives are simply the downstream effect of horrible sleep habits. Fix the night, and you fix the day. Finally, let me touch on something uncomfortable. We are taught not to judge a book by its cover. That is a noble sentiment, and it is also a lie. The world judges the book by the cover every single day. In my 30s, I sometimes neglected my appearance, thinking my inner worth should be enough. But caring about your appearance, your body, your grooming, your clothes, is not superficial. It is a form of self-respect. When you take care of the exterior, you signal to the world and to yourself that you matter. People treat you differently when you treat yourself with dignity. It starts with the body, moving it, feeding it right, and extends to the details like your haircut and clothes. It is not about being a fashionista, it is about showing up for your own life. I am sharing this because I don't want you to wake up at 45, looking in the mirror at a stranger you no longer recognize, wondering where your strength and vitality went. The decline is optional, but only if you stop sleepwalking and start fighting for your health today. If neglecting the body is a silent betrayal, then neglecting the mind is an active imprisonment. Looking back at my 30s, I see a man who thought he was free, yet he was shackled by invisible chains he forged himself. I was a slave to status, a prisoner of my own ego, and a victim of a timeline that didn't exist. I am writing this to hand you the key to the cell I sat in for a decade. For years, I misunderstood the purpose of money. I treated it as a scorecard to show the world I made it, rather than a tool to buy my freedom. I see so many of you in your 30s falling into the same trap I did, using money to buy things you don't need, to impress people you don't even like. I remember hearing a man once say, "Buy a Rolex, go into debt if you have to," because he believed the watch would attract business and partners. I bought into this logic, the idea that status symbols are magnets for success. It is a lie. If you attract a partner or a client because of the watch on your wrist or the car in your driveway, you are getting exactly what you paid for. A relationship based on a transaction, not a connection. Money makes a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. When you use it to buy status, you are building a cage. When you use it to clear debt and invest in assets, you are buying the only thing that matters: your time. Stop playing the status game. It is a game with no winners, only exhausted players running on a treadmill that goes nowhere. There is a poison that infects the mind of a 30-year-old, the belief that the die is cast. I remember being 24 and thinking it was too late to leave the corporate ladder to become a fitness coach. Then, at 30, I stood at another crossroads, terrified that I was too old to start my own business. I thought the ship had sailed. How foolish I was. Now, at 45, I realize that at 30, you are not late. You are barely out of the starting gate. You have finally acquired enough wisdom to know what matters, yet you still have enough time to build it. The too late narrative is a defense mechanism. It is a story we tell ourselves to avoid the pain of starting over. If you are 32, 35, or 39 and you hate your path, turn around. You are not running out of time. You are wasting it by walking in the wrong direction. Do not spend the next 20 years climbing a ladder only to realize at the top that it is leaning against the wrong wall. I wasted so much mental energy in my 30s protecting a fragile ego. We live in a time where being offended is a recreational activity. I used to take things personally, letting slight insults or disagreements ruin my day. I didn't realize that by doing so, I was handing the remote control of my emotions to strangers. If you are easily offended, you are easily manipulated. It is that simple. I learned, painfully slowly, to adopt a mindset of always assume positive intent, API. Life is too short and your energy is too precious to spend it dissecting the perceived slights of others. Furthermore, I trapped myself in an echo chamber. When I heard something I disagreed with, I shut down. I see this in the comment section of my life constantly. People hear one thing they dislike, and they cancel the messenger. This is intellectual cowardice. You become smarter by being the dumbest person in the room. You grow by listening to those who challenge your worldview. Stop protecting your ego. It is not your friend. It is the guard keeping you in solitary confinement. Finally, I must speak about the energy leak that drained my ambition for years: the sexualization of the brain. In the age of infinite internet access, it is easy to sedate yourself with pornography and digital stimulation. I thought it was harmless. I was wrong. It was casting a fog over my drive. Desexualizing your brain is one of the most powerful things you can do. When I stopped clicking, stopped watching, and stopped letting algorithms dictate my desires, I felt a surge of energy return to me. That energy, which I had been throwing away into a void, could finally be diverted into developing myself. Do not let pixels steal your vitality. You are the architect of your own reality. Your perception is the lens through which you see the world. And for years, my lens was dirty with resentment, status seeking, and fear. I cleaned mine too late. You have the chance to clean yours now. We spend our 30s obsessed with arrival. We believe that there is a specific destination, a number in a bank account, a job title, a body fat percentage, where, once we reach it, the struggle ends and happiness begins. I spent 15 years running toward this horizon, only to realize that every time I got close, the horizon moved. I am writing this to save you from the hollowness of the finish line. I want to talk to you about the baggage you are carrying, the people you are walking with, and the lie of the shortcut. If you want to move fast, you must travel light. Yet, for years, I dragged a heavy sack of stones behind me. Resentment. I held on to anger toward my parents, my exes, and people who had wronged me, thinking that my anger was a weapon that punished them. I was a fool. I learned too late that resentment is like taking a poison pill and expecting the other person to die. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to others. It is a selfish act of survival. I realized that my parents were just flawed humans dealing with their own trauma, using the only tools they had. When I finally let go of the need to blame them, I didn't just free them, I freed up the energy I needed to build my own life. There are 4 people you must forgive before you turn 40. Your parents, your past loves, your enemies, and most importantly, yourself. Stop whipping yourself for the time you wasted. You cannot change the past, but you can stop letting it mortgage your future. There is a terrifying truth about human nature. We are permeable. We absorb the anxiety, the ambition, and the limitations of the people around us through a process of social osmosis. In my 30s, I often stayed in rooms where I was the smartest or the most successful person. It felt good for my ego, but it was fatal for my growth. I was protecting my fragility rather than exposing my ignorance. If you look around your circle and you don't see the reality you want to build, you are in the wrong room. You need to find a room where you are the dumbest person, the least fit person, the poorest person. It is uncomfortable. It hurts the pride, but it is the only way to level up. Do not cling to people who anchor you to your past simply because you share history. Loyalty to a toxic past is treason to your future. I used to treat goals like a hunt. I needed to capture the prey to be fed. I remember writing down 20 goals on a piece of paper, desperate for a change, and hiding it in a drawer. When I found it 6 months later, half of them had happened. It felt like magic, but it was just biology. Your mind is a heat-seeking missile. If you don't give it a target, it will find one, usually a bad one. But here is the paradox that almost broke me. The attainment of the goal is not the prize. I have achieved things I dreamt of for years, only to feel empty 48 hours later. The happiness is not at the summit, it is in the climb. If you hate the process of writing, you will hate having written a book. If you hate the discipline of starving, you will hate the body you built. Stop playing a finite game where you win or lose. Start playing an infinite game where the goal is simply to keep playing. The purpose of a goal is not to get something. It is to become the kind of person who can attract that thing. The gold medal gathers dust. The athlete you became to win it lives in you forever. We live in the era of the hack. Get rich quick. Get ripped in 6 weeks. I fell for all of them, and I am here to tell you a secret that took me 45 years to learn. The long way is the shortcut. Every time I tried to shortcut the process, I missed the lessons I needed to sustain the result. I built castles on sand, and they washed away. There is a simple, boring, unsexy formula for success that beats every hack in existence. 1. Show up, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. 2. Do the work, not shallow, distracted work, but deep, focused work. 3. Improve, can I? Constant and never-ending improvement. Fix the bottleneck. That's it. It's not complex, but it is hard. Most people quit because they overestimate what they can do in 6 weeks and underestimate what they can do in a year. I look back at my YouTube channel from 15 years ago. I quit because I didn't see immediate results. If I had just kept walking, where would I be now? Do not be seduced by speed. Be seduced by consistency. Give yourself a year, not a month. Commit to the long path, because it is the only road that actually leads somewhere. We have talked about the decay of the body, the prison of status, and the illusion of the destination. But there is one final terrifying truth that I must confess to you. It is the root of all the other problems I faced in my 30s. It is the realization that reality is not real. For decades, I lived as a victim of circumstance. I thought the world was happening to me. I didn't realize that I was the one writing the script. Your biggest superpower is not your IQ, your bank account, or your muscles. It is your ability to control your perception. I learned too late that reality is subjective. It is a construct trained by the people you surround yourself with and the environment you inhabit. Two people can look at the same tragedy. One sees a tombstone, the other sees a stepping stone. I spent years looking through a dirty lens, framing every setback as a failure rather than an iteration. I was like Thomas Edison giving up on the light bulb after one try. If I could go back, I would tell my younger self, stop judging the world. Start curating your lens. You are the chemist of your own belief set. If the mixture is explosive, it is because you poured the wrong ingredients in. There was a time when I would argue with my wife and say the most powerless words a man can utter. You made me feel this way. I shudder when I think about that version of myself. By blaming her for my anger, I was admitting that I was a puppet and she held the strings. It took me years to understand that emotions are my responsibility, not the world's. When you blame others, your boss, your spouse, the economy, you are trading your agency for the comfort of victimhood. It is a terrible trade. You get to be right, but you lose the power to change anything. Personal power is simply the refusal to blame others for the weather in your own head. Do not wait until you are 45 to take ownership of your emotional state. Now, I must share my biggest regret. It is a ghost that haunts me, and I share it so it does not haunt you. 15 years ago, I started a YouTube channel. I posted sporadically, didn't see immediate views, and I quit. I told myself it wasn't working. I looked at the short timeline, weeks, months, and decided the effort wasn't worth the reward. I look back at that decision with a heavy heart. If I had simply ignored the silence of the first year and kept walking, where would I be today? That version of me, the one who kept going, is dead. He never got to exist because I killed him with my impatience. We overestimate what we can do in 6 weeks and underestimate what we can do in a year. We are addicted to the timeline of a movie, where the hero wins in 2 hours. Life is not a movie. It is a grind. If you are in your 30s, you are standing on the precipice. You can choose the shortcut, the get-rich-quick schemes, the crash diets, the easy status, and you will arrive at 45 empty-handed, lacking the skills to sustain anything. Or, you can choose the long path, the path of lifting weights when you are tired, the path of forgiving your parents when you are angry, the path of doing deep work when the world is distracted. The shortcut is the long path. There is no other way. I am 45. I have shared these scars not to scare you, but to wake you up. You have the one thing I can never buy back: time. Don't take my word as gospel. As Bruce Lee said, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless. But please, do not let the next decade pass you by in a blur of autopilot. Treat your body like a temple, not a tent. Treat your mind like a garden, not a warehouse. Treat your time like a dying man's last currency. I spent 45 years learning this. You can learn it today. The clock is ticking. Start now.